We are rolling.
Okay, good evening and welcome to the Petaluma Community Access Board of Directors meeting for Tuesday, December 18th, 2018. Could our secretary please call the roll?
Cindy Thomas.
Here.
Dennis Murphy.
Here.
Judith Kirschner, present. Dominica Giovannini.
Here.
Richard Albert.
Here.
Dana Porteous.
Here.
Jason Lopez.
Here.
Tim Williamson.
Here.
John Pertucci.
Here.
And wow, this is the first time in a long time that we've all been together. Pretty cool. End of the year. Nice. Okay, anyone for public comment? Seeing none. Board of Directors comments and announcements? Any? Any? I'll make a comment if nobody else does. I want to comment that it's John's last meeting. And I want to thank you for your 10 plus years of commitment to PCA and
Second, I'll ditto on that. Thank you.
I think it was 2 meetings in the whole time.
We just all do a group
and I
hug.
think you should go retire and forget about
It's
it.
gonna be a random artist.
Any plans? You going to, have you decided whether you're going to go to France or not?
France is definitely in the cards, but Muriel's got a couple more years to work
I have a yellow vest you can have.
on. Wear it now. I may do some traveling in May, but I've got to decompress.
I think that's a good idea. Anyway, thank you. Okay, agenda approval,
I'd like to-
everybody's,
I would like to make a modification.
okay.
New business 11A, I would like to modify that to be appointments to all committees, not just outreach and events.
Um,
Can we do that?
we can, and Judy and John and I struggled with this one on whether we need to have finalization on splitting up of the outreach committee and making it the events committee and the outreach committee two separate entities. Do you think we do?
No, I am speaking more about general committee appointments.
Yeah, that
It was supposed to be changing that to general committee appointments.
agreed.
It was on the last agenda and it got carried. We did not appoint a committee.
So going through
For
all the
any of the
committees and doing
Okay,
it.
but we had a different discussion at the outreach committee about how the
Well,
committees were
they're
structured.
two different things.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one is the splitting. Actually, you already voted and approved
The
the
splitting.
the split, and it's in the minutes.
Yeah.
But you wanna change the name now.
I wanted to, so we already proved the split, I'm talking about changing it to actual committee appointments in general.
Yeah.
Okay, let's not split hairs, because we can always make changes down the road to anything, so we'll take 11A and carry that under, which one?
Well, it can be just 11A, it's just general committee appointments, we haven't done that yet.
Yeah, like the finance and
Finance, everything.
all the other committees.
Okay, I'm confused, so we're taking 11A, and what's the other item?
No, we're just taking 11A and making it general committee appointments.
Plus the change of the,
See, on
No,
the-
we already
Okay,
approved
we
that.
can't make it general committee appointments if it wasn't originally on the agenda.
That's what I was
It was-
asking,
it was
so
supposed to be.
somehow it was
Yes.
supposed to be, but it wasn't.
Okay.
Okay, so that has to, yes, I agree, and I missed that. So that has to table to the next meeting.
And then so 11A, then we can just delete it, because we already
We're
approved the split.
deleting
no,
11A.
no, you can't delete it, because it's been modified at the outreach committee, and it needs to be reapproved.
So we're doing committee appointments just for one committee.
The split has to be reapproved with the correct names.
That's not what it says.
What were the names at the okay, where's the minutes?
It's on here, it's under committees, it says Outreach and Fund Development and Events Committee. But 11A says that appointments just to the Outreach and Events Committee, but that doesn't make sense because we might as well just do all the committee appointments at once, was my rationale. I don't understand why we're making appointments to one committee and not the rest. So I guess my recommendation now is that we get rid of that item completely and do committee appointments in general next time. We've already approved the split, it's up here in reports of committees.
Except the split has been modified. In the minutes from last month, it says we separated it into two committees, fund development and outreach and events. And at the outreach meeting, it was suggested that we change it to outreach and fund development and events.
Well, it's already up here on 9, then that's what I
Well,
don't
that's-
understand.
Judy has entered it in ahead of time, but if you wanna undo the minutes,
So we have
I
to
don't know.
approve the name? I don't know.
I think it'll be real quick, I think it's,
Okay, fine. I
Obviously,
don't
there's
know why
confusion.
committee appointments isn't on this agenda.
Okay, so I see two things here. We're leaving 11A on for the purpose of
The name change.
finalizing the name of the two committees. And the second piece would be on the next agenda to have new appointments to committees.
oh,
All
Right,
committees.
all committees, right. Yes?
Okay, yes.
So tabled for next meeting, appointments to all committees.
Yes.
Okay, well then I will make
Okay.
a motion to approve the agenda.
I have a question. There was one matter that wasn't closed, and I don't see it being brought forward, and it was a point of discussion about DreamHost completing their work.
It's under the
About the what?
website. It's under
It
the
is under the
outreach,
website.
It is
the
under the
marketing and
website.
social media.
Okay,
Sorry, it's under the
And business.
10A. To answer your
Okay.
question,
10A.
10A.
okay. Thank you.
Anything else? Motion on the floor, second? I'll second
Second.
it.
Judy seconds.
Second,
Okay.
Dominica, you made the motion.
I made the motion.
Judy is seconding it. Okay, is anybody opposed to what we just modified on the agenda? Okay, the agenda's approved. Approval of the minutes for the November 2018 meeting. Everybody got a copy of that last Friday. Hope you read it. Are there any changes? And if not, I need a motion to approve that.
I didn't see it. I'll motion.
I'll second.
Okay. Moved by Dennis, second by Domenica. Anyone
Just-
opposed to this?
Well, just for Judy's, there has to be one recusal, just for,
Or who's a refusal?
he wasn't here.
He doesn't have to recuse himself.
Okay.
Do you
You
want
can
to
recuse
Do you
recuse
want
yourself.
to
yourself?
remove yourself?
I wasn't here, let's repeat it.
What the yeas and the nays? Can you approve when you're not here?
You want to vote in favor of the minutes or recuse?
I'll recuse myself.
Okay.
I'm not trying to.
So does that mean I need
influence
to recuse myself from the last seconding because I wasn't at the last meeting?
What's that?
No.
No, okay,
you. No.
okay.
Okay, so, all right, how many ayes? Raise your hand.
No.
Nays?
Do better ones.
Abstentions?
Recusing.
One, yeah. Richard's the abstention? Okay. Treasurer's report, if you're ready, Domenica.
So all I have is that we're in the black because the PEG fees came through, but that's the good news. The bad news is we have no money coming in fundraising, which we know, I think we all know. Next month, I'm gonna go through the budget in a more specific sense. That'd be appropriate given our potential new ED appointment. So and the rationale behind that is because the board should take a serious consideration for the budget, because it's really important, and I'm more than happy to report back on where things are, but at the same time, I think that everyone should be reviewing it in a very extensive manner. So, to that end, next month's meeting, I'm going to go through things specifically, some of the important line items, understanding the, the profit loss and all the different, documents that are provided to us. So I just wanted to forewarn everyone, and so I'll do that at the next meeting. But as always, if anyone has questions, you can reach out to me individually if you'd like to understand where one thing is, and I'll make sure that if I don't have the answer, that I'll touch base with John. And I really encourage people to do so. Again, like, I can't stress enough how much the budget and our funding, obviously it's essential, that's intuitive. So I just wanna make sure that the board is understanding of where we're at with all that. So those are the only two things that, are outstanding at this point in time.
Can you repeat what's outstanding, Dominica?
We're in the black because the PEG fees came
Okay,
through.
sorry, okay, great.
However, we
But
are
nothing-
having, we're,
Nothing
severely at a detriment with the fundraising.
Given what you just summarized, do you think it would be a wise idea to start having regular finance committee
I
meetings?
said that, yes, I said that before this meeting started. I think it's absolutely essential that all committees meet regularly, including the finance committee.
Standing committees should all be meeting,
Yes, so I
They're
wanna,
not standing otherwise.
that's really
thank you, I'm joking.
Well, they're
So
standing.
yes, I
Can-
wanna,
can
Our bylaws drive the fact that those are standing committees, and so we should be acting on that.
They
Yes.
absolutely have to meet and
Yes.
and be posted and agendized and have minutes.
Absolutely, Brown Act.
Or else
Yeah.
they're not standing committees.
yes, so I said that right before the meeting started. It's absolutely essential that that occurs. And so again, next month when we do the committee appointments, just, we need to bear that in mind, that committee has to meet.
Mhm.
Absolutely. I'm happy to report back, but I can't be the only eyes on everything,
I agree,
so.
I would attend those meetings, okay, so.
And then I can give a formal report out from the meeting. That would be the point. Then I'm not just, anyway.
It will also be beneficial if we have a new executive director for that time.
That's why I put off going through everything specifically till the next meeting.
I like it.
Okay.
Any other questions on Domenica's report? John, do you have anything to offer from the ED perspective?
No, just a thumbnail from me is the profit and loss budget performance sheet. The middle column shows what we have spent so far. That's key. The far right is what I budgeted, which are kind of hypothetical numbers, but after 10 years, I've got a proportionate. And what Dominica said about the fundraising is really apparent if you look at the second page, 910 radio income, a lot of zeros. And I would point out that I think underwriting is the big money basket. That's the one that should be jumped on first.
Yep.
When I do the budget, I pad things. I try to keep my balance in the red, but under $100, so I balance money where I can. And with the shifting in payroll, we are saving money, so we have extra money there. So we're not hurting, but we're not moving forward.
Underwriting requires an underwriting plan.
Yes.
He's acting like it's not his concern anymore.
Well, no, it's not on the agenda, but I just wanted to make that point that that's that.
Okay,
Anyway.
New Year's coming,
Woohoo.
all right? Anything else on the treasurer's report? Seeing none, thank you, Dominica, and John, we're ready for your executive director report, please.
Okay, so we lost one of our access assistants. Her semester was up and she moved on. She left the county. So we're down to 4 now. Patty is not able to get a replacement yet. Christmas holidays, students are out. Sonoma State is our best source. We've got a good relationship with them. But in January, Patty's got herself down for 2 meetings in Rohnert Park she'll be doing. Interns, we've got a steady stream of interns. It's really exciting. Patty and Rob, well, Patty processes them when they come in. She gets the paperwork and they fill out a timesheet on her desk. And then they're basically assigned to different departments. A lot of them are going to radio. Eric is working with Jeff on TV. They come in on Sunday when I'm there. Just grab a bunch of CDs and go and rip them. And so they're getting direction. That's a good sign. Our office design,
Just one sec, how long does it take to ramp up an intern to make them useful? How many, an hour,
couple hours.
a couple hours?
Well,
What does it take to convert an intern to an access assistant in terms of additional effort?
access assistant training is a little more complicated, and there are contingencies. If they're high school, we can't really use them because
Mhm,
they
have
can't
to be
work
18.
late. Yeah, they can't work late. But we have done that in the past, quite a few. Naomi started out as an intern, and now she's an access assistant.
Where are these folks coming from?
A lot from Sonoma State.
And it's just by word of mouth, or there's actually,
Well,
some sort of announcement that's being
they
made or
have
posted?
Communications department has it posted,
Okay.
and Patty actually went up and met with the assistant dean for that
Mhm.
department. But it's mostly word of mouth. The ones that do it like it, they tell their friends, they call us, it's been working out great.
But not the JC.
JC's a little more difficult, we haven't got anybody from the JC.
What about Matt Pearson? No help?
We could get help from that if we
Okay.
wanted
I talked to him a little bit on Sunday when I was there, so.
Who is that person?
He's still engaged with us.
He's the media manager at the Petaluma campus, and he's a past board member.
Okay, so the office design progress, Micah has been volunteering doing some electrical work. There's one more phase left, so we can move the copy machine out into the main office. But we worked out our overload problem. We do need to move on the shelving for the CDs. That's a project that needs to be working on. I know Dana has volunteered to help, and so has Dominic. And then there's the storage. That needs to be, that may be my last parting shot, is to clean out that storage unit. It's been a project I've tried to attack every summer for the last 5 years, but we just don't have the time to get down there and do a triage of equipment.
Are we gonna continue to rent from you?
Yeah, we can renegotiate. The contract I have
He's all
expires
yes.
the contract I have expires when my employment expires, so it won't be difficult. I'd like to recover one part of it, so we can discuss that. Christmas schedules, we are basically closed to the public. Traditionally, we're closed to the public between Christmas and New Year's. It's been a kind of an open option to staff to take a breather. They can either take vacation time or just not get paid for that time, or they can come in and work. And I know Jeff will be taking a vacation, a desperately needed one. But Rob and Patty will be coming in, and Nellie will pop in occasionally for the checks and stuff. I will be out.
We'll still be on the air?
Yes.
Because Rob was gonna send out an email to everybody.
He did today.
He did.
Okay.
Well, the Monday and Tuesday is different. Monday and Tuesday we're
Oh,
treating
okay.
as holidays closed, but the other days, yes.
Well, he said Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve till 2 p.m. and then Christmas and Christmas
Year's
Day
Day,
and New Year's
my
Day,
show.
nothing automation.
Okay.
That's what he sent out today,
Just play on loops and stuff.
automation, yeah.
Are we fully automated now?
Let me get down to that, it's coming. I got just talk about community outreach. We worked to try to cover the Woolsey Lee event at this JC. It was at the JC, so Matt was the one probably who videotaped it.
He was, he
His
did.
staff.
Yeah, so we tried to get permission from the organizers, we got no response, but we'll follow up on that because Matt's been very forthcoming with the video that he has. And that's why I had that issue in the radio project about a radio response team. You know, we don't necessarily have to have the video if we can go over and get audio. There's a lot of events in town that we should have a rapid response radio team that can jump out and record the audio. If Matt gives us video, we can pull the audio off and run it on the radio.
Well, this was one of the primary reasons we purchased the Zooms.
And we need to establish that team
Mm-hmm.
so that they're on call, because some of these come in like 2 nights before. There was something here at the community center with the police last week.
Oh,
We
yeah.
heard about it on Tuesday and it was on Wednesday, and if we had a team, we might have jumped in and got it.
Do we monitor Nixle?
We were
From the state.
during the fires, but
I did not.
Well, I know some of us haven't. I just wonder maybe we should watch that one for That's the police official
Yeah.
social media outlet.
Nixon.
Uh-huh.
And social media, our Facebook pages are still growing. People are coming right and left to join up, get on. We've had a little issue with somebody trying to post on the PCA Facebook page. Can't do it without approval. And it's kind of self-promotions for his radio show, so we'll talk to him. And just want to remind you that the TEP announcement is an important gesture because we have some faithful people who've frozen for us and donated a lot, and they should be alerted that we're not doing it this year.
And that was already decided upon that it was going out.
Well, I'm just reminding you.
Okay, I thought that was already like done, closed book was gonna happen.
I haven't seen anybody moving forward to do it, so I'm just
Who would
reminding.
be doing it?
That's a good question.
I'm asking, I thought that we already, like, at the outreach committee, like, that was like 2 months ago, we talked about it was gonna happen, I thought it was done.
That's what I thought.
I think we were waiting on the announcement to make sure that we had something to put on the postcard about, we're
Thought that
sorry,
was
we're not
done.
doing TEP, but we have this event in May.
But we already knew that was happening.
But we
And
were,
I
I
thought
think
the
we were
May-
waiting for a band name
Yeah,
maybe.
we're waiting for the band, and
But-
that will be,
I thought we decided that it
Shouldn't
should just
people
go
be made
out and say
aware
we're
ahead of
having
time?
this event in May and stay tuned for more information, I thought that's what we talked about.
I don't think we need a band name to
No.
let people know that another event is not happening. I mean, that's immaterial, I think. I think just them knowing that there is another event in May, yet this one that we've done every February is not happening is pretty sufficient.
That was my understanding, that was already
I
set and done 2 months ago, so.
hope you're taking notes, because that'll be in
Okay.
January.
Yeah.
We're doing this in January. For radio project, the extended access installation, we have the cards, they work. We have we have a lock on the door between the TV side and the radio side, but it's a unique lock that's a separate key, and we still need to get locks on Rob and my door and the back studio B. We're gonna try to get it so it's all the same key, but that's still in the process. And the cameras, we're still working on the cameras. We decided that Bay Alarm was too expensive and that our cameras, we looked at them and they're too old and funky. So Jeff is checking, he's got another line on Comcast offers that service, cheaper than Bay Alarm. And I told Jeff to talk to you, Tim, because you had some suggestions on really minimal surveillance type cameras. that run
Minimalistic
it.
up to crazy.
So, the first one was to get the 3 locks taken care of. Can we just get a locksmith in
Yep.
and take care of that? And then that's covered. And then whoever's supposed to have those keys,
Could be staff.
it would be staff. Okay.
Okay, but the locks have to be installed on the doors, right? They have to be actually drilled in the lock's place.
And the 2 different locks, we would love to have the equipment key open all the internal doors.
Well, all you have to do is get all the locks in, and then you can take the inside
The tumblers.
tumblers in and have them all keyed to the same
Yeah.
key.
It's something to be
It's
done,
very simple.
except that the door between the 2 sides is a separate lock that can't be keyed to the others.
Right.
But those are just wrinkles.
And this is an interim security measure?
No.
Versus the larger swipe cards and all that was being considered, or?
No, it's
No.
connected.
It's probably more detail than we should be discussing.
Okay.
The cards work, people can come in, we can lock both sides, we can arm both sides, people can disarm one side and not the other, and rearm it when they leave. What we need to do is get locks on the internal doors so they don't go walking into mine or Rob's office, that kind of thing. And we also need a camera so we can know if anything leaves with them or other people come in or that sort of thing. The automation program is not up, we're still struggling with that. Jeff's been ill for the last 2 days, so we didn't move forward, or we're right on the cusp of it because we've got an automation system that we purchased from a firm in Australia, New Zealand. So communications is a little challenging, but it just isn't doing what we're telling it to do. And part of the problem, I think, is because we had two previous programs running automation, and one of them is still on the computer. And for a while, that was confusing the other. We shut that down, but the other still is, the new one still isn't functioning. So Rob's on it every day as fast as he can, and hopefully it'll be worked out. It is programming a lot of good material. There's a lot of, whenever there's not a live show, there's music going out. And Rob is curating that music. It's very effective, I think. It's very
Cool. Okay.
But what we're having trouble with is if somebody does a full hour show, overriding what's already in there and getting that to run has been a challenge. The workaround is bring it in on a stick and we can pop it in manually. And I do that a couple times on Sunday with sticks.
But this is a program we're paying for this time. This is not a freebie.
Not a freebie.
So are they able to give us online support
Yes.
throughout this
but
whole?
with the time zone
Ah,
issue.
What times are they at
East
the
Coast?
east or something?
They're in New Zealand.
They're like
Where?
12
New
hours.
Zealand.
No, like 18.
Seriously.
We had Ian come in from Point Reyes out there. He gave us a list of a bunch of them and he says, the one you got is the best. It's the one they use. So we are on the right track. It's just working out the wrinkles on how it functions.
Who's Ian? He's with another station. that he's-
KWMR.
And he employs this system. Any chance that they can actually help us out?
He
Or
came
was
in
he
and
came in-
we paid him for an hour
But he
worth of
couldn't
work.
figure out what our issue is.
He told us what to do and we did it and it's still not working.
So maybe getting the old one, any semblance of the old system out.
Yes, I think
I
that's
think
the,
that
that's the thing.
should
is
have been done.
Well-
But yeah,
that is a lot of work that goes in that because they would have to reload all the music that's playing.
That's the problem.
Isn't there a backup where it would just be easy to just reload it? Do you have a backup?
Well, there's a backup of the files, the audio files,
Yeah.
but it has to be programmed, it has to be put into the automation program.
interns,
So we're trying to avoid that, but that is the next solution, obviously.
Seems like it
Re-
probably worth a
To
try.
strip the computer
That's a
and
solution.
reload the
It's,
automation
it's
system.
definitely been an improvement
Oh,
in terms of
absolutely it has.
listening.
Oh, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
no
just-
question.
I've enjoyed it.
That crazy country station.
Okay.
So,
You can continue, John.
Petaluma Partnership, we had a request from Dominic to extend our partnership for his Pedalama comedy. He's doing a couple of one-offs. He's got one coming up, the Crossword Show, and he wanted to make us he wanted one agreement that would cover all his events. And we talked about it at outreach and it was affirmative, so I'm just announcing this. Basically, it's the Crossword Show and times KPCA bar beneficiary. We would get the bar money. We could even provide a bartender if you want to get out there
Woo
and
woo, I'm down.
push the PCA.
Sounds like fun.
So that's happening. And then I mentioned the radio response team. We've had some continuing city hall issues. Jeff has been rewiring it because we put in a new UPS and we wanted to get them on separate circuits. And just want to point out that there's a new city manager that we should reach out to and introduce ourselves. No?
It's an interim.
Oh, interim. Okay.
And
Well, the
he's-
ci-
and
we
he's
are-
not new.
Our agreement is
Yeah, I was gonna
basically
say
with the
that.
city of Petaluma via the city manager, but city manager's, assistant city manager watches us and Tim takes care of all the rest.
Sorry.
And this is my last board meeting, so, official. I will come if you request my presence for the next month or two.
Okay, any questions for John?
Suggestions about moving ahead on the radio response team idea. I just wondered what your feeling was about, is it worthy of its own entity? Or is it a function of the same as recording city hall events, or is it that kind of thing? Because it does require us to have training.
There's training, and I think ultimately it's a phone tree. And I would think it would be better to keep it in the radio programmers, because when that gets solid and they have to do 3 hours a month of volunteer time, that's a good volunteer time.
Oh, that's a good
So you
idea.
have a phone tree for people you can call, hey, are you free to go record this event? You know, plug into their soundboard or bring a mic, just get an audio that we can run at
Mhm.
midnight, it'd be good to get that kind of community stuff.
Okay.
I
I would say that the training on something like that would be a bit more complicated because of what you just said about plugging into their system is different in every possible situation, and so you're gonna need people who actually really know it, you know. It's easier, I imagine it's easier with the cameras and stuff because it's only our equipment, but if you're dealing with other people's equipment, it's gonna
Well,
be.
even with the camera, sometimes we've plugged in XLR. But it's not as complicated as a pop-up, where you have to be linked to the studio for broadcast. It's just bring back an audio file.
Okay, thank you, John. We're gonna move on. We have nothing on the consent calendar. We'll move into reports of committees, and the executive committee met on 11/27, and I didn't see any minutes.
I did send them out, but we mainly just talked about hiring. I did send them out. We talked about, again, doing staff and member feedback surveys about the organization. That was a big thing. We set a deadline of them being drafted by February 1st. And then I think beside that, we just talked about ED hiring, which we'll be talking about future in the agenda. Those are the two really only things that I can recall that were discussed. You guys?
We also talked about moving it to the Tuesday prior to board meeting.
Right, we did talk about moving the meeting, yeah,
Which
to
means
Tuesday, Friday.
moving the outreach from that side.
But that's still not finalized, right? Was that talked about in that?
I think it could be
outreach
discussed in 11A,
meeting? Okay. I just-
in the outreach and fund committees.
so.
Okay,
11A, did you say?
as I recall, we did not have an agenda, but
It's
we
11.
addressed why we didn't have an agenda, so I.
Yeah,
don't have
I
anything to
sent
work
out the
off of.
minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah, it's all coming back to me, unfortunately. Okay, so,
But that was the, that was
Yeah.
it, yeah.
basically we worked on, a lot on, preparation for, interviews for the executive director and
Right.
whatnot, so.
Right,
Okay, finance committee, no. Nominating committee, policies, procedures, outreach, and fund development. Who wants to talk to that, cause it did meet,
I can talk about that. First part of the meeting was mainly just focused on how we're going to divide the outreach and the original outreach committee into the outreach and fund development and then the events committee. So I think that's kind of what we've settled on, is that there's going to be a meeting, there's going to be a committee that's more reaching out to the big places like Clover and the, individual people going at, what was the word you used?
appeal?
Appealing, yeah, for money, for big donors, on top of also fundraising and things like that. And then the events committee is going to be a separate thing that's gonna be in charge of things like TEP and things like the thing in May and actual events, the pop-ups and stuff like that,
And the butter and egg.
and the butter and eggs and
Right.
that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of where we landed on it, so I guess we're gonna join those committees next month. And then we talked about our plan for the May 5th,
20.
May 20th event at Lagunitas, and discussion of the possible band and the food. So I think we're probably gonna go with the falafel hut. I think we kind of settled on that.
I don't know that we're settled on that, and I think we need to
Discuss
further
that more.
consider that, because there's a lot of other things
Right.
that go into all this stuff.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Well,
that
there-
needs further
Further
discussion.
consideration.
There's more discussion about the event, but things are progressing, and have a couple of options for the band, and we have a pretty big option for the band, and so we were discussing about that, but we haven't made the final decision, and that will happen at the next meeting.
It'll be a couple birthday parties too.
That's right.
And when is the next meeting?
And so that's, I guess, what we're gonna have to and that was the other thing that we discussed, whether or not we're going to be moving the meeting to a Thursday in order to accommodate Phil is a member but not on the board, but he's already done a couple of events, so he's pretty good for the event committee, and then whether or not that's gonna happen, and
But that would mean you can't come.
that would mean that I would no longer attend those meetings, so we will figure it out.
Okay,
Not only you were an issue, we were waiting to hear back from Phil, and I haven't heard anything back from him.
That's true. Has
Anybody heard from
I
Phil?
met with Phil a couple
Okay.
weeks ago.
a couple of weeks ago, but did you meet with him after?
No, not after. Oh, I did send him an email saying that we're working to get it so on Thursday, but I think it's a serious problem if you can't be there. So maybe offline, if you and Phil could talk about a day that you could both do it, then we can
okay,
start there.
and this would be for events.
For events.
Yes.
Events,
Correct.
not,
Yes,
yeah.
outreach is a different thing, and that's where it tied very closely to staff, and it needs to meet on a regular basis with minutes and agendas, and yes, yes.
And that's gonna be a new committee, so I'd assume that would pick its own day when it meets.
Yes.
Alright,
And that's pretty
Is that
much
it?
what we talked about.
Okay, questions? Okay, that covers everything, under reports of committees, yes? Am I wrong? Okay.
No.
Let's move to old business, item 10, and the first item, 10A, discussion and possible action on a marketing social media plan.
alright, let's do this. Okay, so I met with Patty, was that yesterday? Today's Tuesday. Yes, I met with Patty yesterday. And we spent about an hour and a half together talking about where everything's at. She's gonna come to our next meeting and give a report about kind of everything she's been doing and the progress of the social media since she started, as well as in the last month, was my request. So stay tuned for that. These aren't board actions, but I would like feedback. So I learned that both on Twitter and Instagram we have duplicate accounts. So we have a PCA account and a KPCA account. It is absolutely my recommendation that we have one account, not two. KPCA is not a separate entity. It makes no sense for us to have separate accounts. It's causing redundancy that doesn't make sense, and it's doubling the work for our staff.
That's Twitter
Makes
and what?
sense.
Twitter and Instagram.
Instagram, thank you.
So it's my recommendation that both of those get deleted, the KPCA. All the content should be going from one place. And I was very upset to hear that our staff have to do duplication like that. It's a waste of time. Also, these are kind of side notes and I'll get into the website. We don't have the Adobe Creative Suite on our computers for our staff or for our members. We have software that's outdated. The Adobe Creative Suite's been on scene for probably like 4 or 5 years. And so I want to make a recommendation, again, personally to administration, that our ED, our Patty, that our ED, the Patty, and then at least one of our computers have the Creative Suite on it. So basically, we don't even have updated Photoshop, InDesign. We don't even have a version of Acrobat on any of the computers. She had to ask someone to do conversions. This is ridiculous. This is for media. So I just wanted to bring that to the board's attention, that we do not have the Adobe Creative Suite in our organization. So at this point, it would be my recommendation that we have 3 licenses. I actually just canceled my own business Adobe Creative Suite license because I made the assumption that I could go into PCA and use a computer and use the Creative Suite, because I just assumed that was an option for a media organization. So again, that's an administrative decision, but I was very disappointed to hear that Patty doesn't even have access to Adobe Acrobat. She couldn't even convert a PDF to a Word document. So again, I'm taking note of all this. These are all administrative decisions, but I'm taking note of all this and I'm gonna follow through because I think it's ridiculous. So, now to the website. Speaking of duplication, so I just want to give a little background on the website. I think it's about 3 years old, 2.5 years old. I don't know how much it cost. I don't remember, but it was at least a couple $1,000s. So our website again was split into 2. So basically 2.5 years or 3 years ago, all of our stuff was split into 2. It was split into PCA and KPCA. And so now what happened is the web person that we hired prior, she took a carbon copy of our PCA website and created a separate website, which is the KPCA website, and just changed headings and content, which is required that our staff put information in 2 different places. Again, we're causing redundancies that don't make sense. And it's an archaic and counterintuitive website. I'm gonna be honest about it. And as a media organization, again, it doesn't make sense. It's absolutely counterintuitive. It's hard to find information. And then the DreamHost situation, there are much better options for hosting, and it is under the understanding currently that they're more expensive, which they aren't, because we do not need an enterprise version. We're at a very basic level, and so it's a little bit more expensive, but nothing that I find to be crazily inhibiting, and then we have much better protections. DreamHost, in my opinion, said that they would get things done faster than they did, and we shouldn't have a host that crashes out. So basically, DreamHost, what happens is, I think Jeff told me that there's 200 websites that are hosted on the same platform, on the same server. So if only one of the websites has malware, then it can bring down everything that's on that host. So, like I said, there's much better options. They're only a little bit more expensive than what we're dealing with, and that won't happen as long as the website's being updated on a regular basis. But because we have these redundancies, and the PCA website is literally, you have to go into code because it's so old, that's why they get hacked. So I did my due diligence because I just wanted to know what we would be looking at if we were talking about a rebuild of the website. And so I reached out to my friend. It's not to say that that's going to be who's doing the web development. I just wanted an idea of what we're looking at. So we're looking at about $4,500 for a facelift. Our current 2 websites hold at least 60 pages, I think, around 60 pages. We could probably reduce those to 20 at max, because again, we're dealing with all these redundancies. Like, we have the board section on each, we have the about, because again, when they were built, we built 2 different websites, which doesn't make any sense. And so, so again, we're looking at $4,500 pending that they can build on top of the website we currently have. The KPCA website, I believe, is on a platform that's newer and can be built upon, so that saves you money, right? So they can build upon the WordPress site that's already there. And again, simplifying it, I just want to remind people that we are a media agency and our websites do not depict that. They're incredibly counterintuitive. It doesn't make sense. There's 2 different websites. Both URLs should be pointing to the same website to get the same information.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And so that's kind of my report back. I think that there's a lot of better options we have. I think that going with the cheapest has not served us well. It's hurt us a lot. And so I don't know what the action is here. I wanted to report on these things because I was very disappointed to hear about all this duplication. I mean, I knew the website, but the Instagram and the Twitter and this idea that KPCA is different than PCA is very upsetting to me. KPCA is a project of PCA. And we have many other projects if people would like to be reminded of that. And so that's my report. Again, I don't know what the potential action is, but my recommendation is that we very strongly, and I think it's financially feasible, that we rebuild the website. And that we go after quotes or whatever we want to do, whatever procurement methodology we want to go through, but I recommend this time we do not go with the cheapest option. We go with someone that we can trust as a board and that will do a good job, and we look at their past work, because in my opinion, the work that the last web person did was inadequate and embarrassing for us.
What do you think the title of this new singular website should be?
It's
Petaluma
PCA,
Community
Petaluma
Access.
Community Access.
So the KPCA is now just be under that, and when people look at the URL, they'll see PCA.
No, you can put PCA.tv or KPCA.fm, it goes to the same website. KPCA will be a part of that website. Just for example, this is just a design example that I love, is that you have a landing screen, and so you put in either URL, you come to a landing spot, and it'll say PCA.tv, KPCA.fm, and you click on one if you want to go to PCA, or you click on a KPCA. But they're not two
Right.
separate websites. It's just if you want to go
Exactly.
directly to the KPCA information, you go to that. So that's just a design
Right,
I never understood
idea.
that.
one portal, two options.
Yeah, it's just
Yes.
it's one website, but you have these two cool options where it'll direct, because the PCA is, you know, a super important part, and then we need to have all the board information, we need to have all the information, and then KPCA will just be that section of pages where you can listen live, but it's fluid. It's all fluid, and then the other idea that I talked a lot about, is having advertising space on the bottom. Just keeping that as an idea that we can add on, is having just like a bottom banner that has advertising space.
Can this discussion be opened up again when Patty comes next week, because she's obviously dealing, and you've
Next
had
month.
discussion, next month. You've had ongoing discussion, she's really been dealing with this one-on-one.
Well, I don't wanna speak with her, but she's on board with this.
Okay, well, then why don't we just put it off until the next agenda and appreciate that you gave us really good information.
Yeah, I'm totally fine. I just hope that, I would like to just encourage that we put on the next agenda and then action is made. But then in the interim, I think there does need to be some action made on the duplication of the Twitter and the Instagram and the lack of the Adobe Creative Suite in our organization.
Are there any quick fixes in the meantime?
No.
Okay.
Unless you know web design.
No.
I don't think it needs board
Even if
action,
you
I
do,
think it needs staff
That's too many
action.
pages to do quick.
As far as the other, I know, again,
What you're saying about reducing and combining.
yeah, and again, and I know that the staff are on board with that, but of course, I do not have the liberty to tell the staff to do those things, but,
Would you like to make it a board order?
I would like to make it a board order.
Okay, do you have a motion?
I would like to motion that the
Can I
KPCA,
just add some things
sure,
before you go there? Because Philip came to me when I did meet him a couple weeks ago. He had the same idea. He thinks our KPCA website should be beefed up, because radio stations have functions on a website. And he submitted this website, I grabbed a few others. So if that portal takes you to a radio station where you have playlists and maybe streaming and that's good, but it also might be good to have a separate radio station for people who just wanna find out about the radio.
those are add-ons, you don't need a separate website, those are just
Right.
application
You
add-ons.
can combine them and keep the
Right.
original.
Okay,
that
I'm
they're
just suggesting the design information that Philip submitted.
Well, I'm just saying, I think that we should go out to bid for the website, but I also I don't agree in having two different websites, that's
Wait,
just
I
the bottom line.
understand.
Yeah.
I think everybody kind of agrees with that, so.
Make your motion.
It's a budgetary question, and it'd be something we'll shift over to you.
So I'm making a motion
We're making assumptions here.
to.
We haven't voted on that yet.
That's true.
Right, so I am making a motion, or, to delete the duplicated KPCA Twitter and Instagram, and to purchase 3 licenses of the Adobe Creative Suite. Is that what I'm asking for? I know, can I not ask that?
We can direct staff to look into it.
Can we direct,
It
can I
may
make a
not-
motion to direct staff into looking into, is it just the Creative Suite
Yeah.
purchase? Okay, so 2 different things, okay, sorry Judy.
2 parts.
So I'm making an emotion
Yeah.
to delete the duplicated KPCA Twitter and Instagram.
Yep.
So we'll do that first.
Second.
Okay, seconded.
Any further discussion?
You have a good thing.
But I don't think there's any need support it.
Okay, all those in
Dennis.
favor, aye?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Abstentions?
Motion number 2.
And
Okay.
then I am, is it really a motion? Or making a motion to have,
Direct staff to look into.
to
it.
direct staff into looking at 3 Adobe Creative Suite licenses.
I can tell you right now, that'd be about $100 a month.
To purchase?
No, for three,
three.
for 3 accounts, a month, it's $100.
But we're just
So-
saying by way of process, we have to do it this way. That's- yeah.
Can you rephrase that or read?
Oh, I was
Okay,
saying-
wait, we haven't had, input, public comment on this.
No, she was just asking me to
I'm just asking
reiterate
to
what the
Oh, oh, oh.
motion was.
Phrase what her motion is, cause she said something and then Dennis said something.
About Adobe Acrobat?
Yeah,
Yeah, we
about the
can't have a
suite.
motion on the floor and get public input.
That's what he told me. to do.
Directing staff.
No,
to
directing staff.
No, if we're having, okay, we can't, Dawn would like to.
I'm good, I can talk to you guys after.
No,
we
he
like-
can
we
make
have to
public,
have public comment
on the first
on
motion.
stuff.
Go ahead.
Wait,
I don't have-
any item
Right.
on the agenda, you can have public comment,
Yeah.
we can't do it with a motion on the floor.
We cleared it, we passed it.
Okay,
There's no motion now.
okay, I thought I heard a
She's a-
motion just saying,
No, no, no.
She wants to.
I want to, but
Okay.
I haven't done it yet.
okay,
Do it, I abstain from my comment.
Ooh,
you sure?
Yeah, it's not important.
he's gonna fix it anyway.
All right, go ahead.
So now, I don't even know the right wording. Okay, so I'm making a motion to direct staff to look into 3 licenses of the Adobe Creative Suite. That was it.
Second that.
Anything else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed?
Now you're upset.
And now you can have
Abstentions?
comment
No?
too. No comment.
I think you can just buy one license and then just sign into it.
If you have it on separate computers, you have to have separate licenses.
You do?
Discussion's
So they
over,
will-
you guys.
Separate email
Okay.
addresses.
And they will check. Unless you get, student email addresses, that's what I use, it's only $20 for a student.
We got it. We should be able to get it.
But you can't do
Okay.
that.
Anything
Anyways.
else on this agenda item?
No,
You done, Samantha?
I'm done.
All right, we're moving to 10B, discussion and possible action on board and ED performance reviews. And I just went back over my notes and I can't remember why this is still on here.
We had talked about it as well in the executive.
At the executive committee, right,
Yeah, and we were coming up, I mean, it kinda got mixed in with the, member survey as well, so.
right.
I'm not sure where the distinctions kinda got a little fuzzy.
I think, no, I don't know why it's on here either, because it was
I
already
think we need to punt
completed.
it back to the executive committee with the expectation that they're done before the end of the year.
Well, we had questioned, the only thing I can remember is that the executive committee had, oh no, on board and ED, yeah, it just, yeah. I mean, the executive committee can't develop an executive committee. Action on board
No action on 10B?
and, no.
I will place it on the agenda for the executive committee when I
What?
do that. Okay, we're moving to 10C, discussion and possible action on Sebastopol city meeting contract. John?
Okay, so we had an offer, or an invitation from Sebastopol to cover their meetings. We have talked with them and developed a proposal. We have also, in the meantime, gotten a offer or an invitation from Windsor to do the same thing. And Patty and I worked on a proposal. Now, it's not a negotiation at this point. If we go back to them and put the proposal on the table, they will say, they'll sign it, and off we go. We will be engaged to do Sebastopol. I sincerely think this is a mistake for the organization, and I want to argue that case. And you have to understand, we have 3 cities right now, and they are eating up a lot of Patty's time. We have a staff member that does both outreach and city meetings. And city meetings have gotten the priority. So outreach for the last few years has been limp, to put it mildly. So looking at this, the idea of taking on another city is going to complicate the work you want to do with the website with that one person until we can afford another staff member. When we got started in doing other cities, we applied at Novato, and they liked our offer. We had a good price because we have a good relationship with the Petaluma city, and we can coast on that. But they wanted to go with somebody in Marin County, political decision. Novato is 12 miles away. We are now doing Cotati at 8 miles away and Rohnert Park at 10 miles away. Patty has gone to Rohnert Park a number of times in the last month, and she's got 2 meetings to cover there. You know how often Jeff has gone to City Hall to work on that situation. So taking on Sebastopol at 17 miles and Windsor at 26 would be mistakes. We'd be having our staff on the road. These are not the same kind of relationships with members where we do the best we can. These are contractual relationships, and it is a city requirement to have a document of record and video. That's why these cities now are searching around for it. Also, we have a renewal process coming up with Rohnert Park. Their 3-year agreement expires this month. I will be meeting with the Rohnert Park people, actually Patty, the new ED, whoever that is, and I will be meeting with Rohnert Park in middle of January to renegotiate. They are currently paying $60 an hour. Cotati, their contract expired last year. We upped it from 60 to 70. Petaluma is paying $18 an hour, 19 next month, and the school district is still paying 16. We don't really have a contract. That's been kind of a rollover obligation. But if I'm looking at this, we have Cotati locked at $70 an hour through 2020. Rohnert Park, I would like to get it up to $80 an hour and renew for 3 more years. Petaluma, there's no wiggle room on Petaluma.
Complicated.
It's complicated. We do have, last time we negotiated, I did get a dollar an hour raise each year. So next year it'll go up to $19. And the school district, I think there's a larger approach to the school district to get a board director and to renegotiate. I have 2 contracts for the city of Sebastopol, one for $90 an hour and another for $160 an hour. And I think if we were to lose Divka and have to go on life support to stay alive, we would go to 160. I think that's a pretty standard market price. I could confirm this with Marin County because they are doing it for cities on those terms. I'm not sure that we should take it to them. I think we should decline. If you decide to take it, you should know that monthly we take in about $100 from Petaluma, that's $1,200 a year, $100 from the school. We get about $850 a month from Rohnert Park and about $400 a month from Cotati. Sebastopol is only offering us 1 meeting a month, I think, or maybe 2. It won't be a lot of money. So is it a risk that you want to take? If you want to take it, I would recommend getting somebody on staff who just is dedicated to doing this job and keeping the access assistant pool flush, because that's work too. So there's follow-up, there's drive time, there's access assistance, and we've got the same person doing it as you would like to do the website upgrade. So I'm recommending that you decline, but it's your decision.
I have a question. So after the last meeting, we had direction to renegotiate the Sebastopol contract. So I'm kind of confused about why there's still outstanding 2 different prices.
I thought we directed to
look
into it.
I just said
To talk to them.
Yeah.
we did talk to them.
And they said what?
They said, give us your offer. Tell them, if their board approves it, tell us what you
Then
want.
what? I'm
That was
confused.
the original meeting. The direction at the
So-
last board meeting was to go back and renegotiate
What's
at
it-
what I
what's
thought we
in-
talked was a
what's in the
$90
minutes?
an hour.
What,
That's
Ju-
what's in the minutes.
Judy, you know what's in the minutes?
Well, I sincerely think the board should rethink
Oh,
that
you were here.
considerably. So I think you should, the board did not vote on assuming this. I was sent back to renegotiate. So I came up with a negotiation that they're ready to take.
But did you negotiate with them?
Negotiate how? That's not the
Higher.
correct word for it. If I go, we negotiated with them at the very beginning, and we said, the board will have to approve it. we'll give you a price on it, I haven't given them the price.
That's what I don't understand, how do you not, you gotta give a price to negotiate.
Because negotiate is to find a price that works, right? Is that the same as signing the contract?
No, but it
No,
doesn't
okay,
sound like you
it's not the
negotiated
same
a
as
price.
it's not the same as signing the
Like, it
contract.
doesn't sound like you negotiated a price, cause it never was brought to them, that was
Sounds
the
like
direction
they
of the
don't
last board
care.
meeting.
They're
They
gonna
don't care
take-
because they have to do it by state law.
Well,
They're
then
gonna-
why wouldn't we jack up the price into a point where we can hire
And that's
someone
the
new?
discussion we had last month.
That's what I'm confused about, I don't
And I
Okay, never
understand.
done
Don't
that.
And then we,
like-
and then we
I don't
offer
think,
Windsor
I
the
don't
same
think you
price.
have a negotiation here. You have an offer, you take this to them and you're locked in to do it.
So we say $160 an hour,
No,
we
you're
hire
not.
someone new, and then we go to Windsor and say $160 an hour, we hire someone new. I just don't understand why it's so complicated. And you're bringing up the website, redeveloping the website's a consultant that redevelops the website. I don't understand why that's a consideration.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why,
Yeah.
I'll tell you why,
Jobs, though.
because the website and social media is a third broadcasting platform. You have TV, you have radio.
But we're
and
talking
you
about
have-
hiring someone new to execute these situations.
Oh, are we? I hadn't heard that yet.
That's what I
You said
just,
that.
I suggested it,
that's,
but
well, okay, so I just don't understand why throwing out the website being a consideration to not be able to take on new cities, to hire new people, to have new revenue. I don't understand how those two things
if
are
that's what the board wants to
concurrent.
do, they'll take this
Even-
paper to them and
Dennis?
it's signed in a
Can I just
minute.
say, I mean,
Dennis and then Dana.
even if you took on both contracts at $160, that's what, $320 a month? That's not enough money to hire a new person,
Just to cover those meetings?
just to
Yeah.
cover the,
How many hours? Per
but
month?
the point, I'm talking about the stress on Patty's time. I mean, you could get another access assistant and pay them $15, and sure, you know, if they're only working, 2 or 3 hours a week, but the thing is, you have to pay for their drive time too, and then you have Patty negotiating all these extra things, and then also doing all the social media stuff. The point that John is making is that she doesn't have enough hours in the day to do both things, so if you take on if you get these new contracts, and then put them onto Patty to figure it out.
Why is it on Patty?
Because
That's
that's
what I
her
don't
job. That's her job is the access coordinator. She also does the social media stuff, and it seems to be that we need somebody else to do the social media, or we need somebody else to do the access assistant. But getting another person in there for $300 a month we're not gonna have enough money to hire that second person.
Would be
Is
like
I think that's
$700
the point that John's trying to make, and I agree with him.
My point is that it's a growing business for us, and it is income. If it's a problem for us, why aren't we making money, and what is the real cost in terms of Patty's time?
What's the
Because
real
we're not
cost?
charging enough money, that's why.
Then we raise the price. And if
Exactly.
we have somebody else, it seems like it's an entity unto itself, and how do we make it a profitable business for us?
And Marin TV does it. This is what I don't understand. This is my problem, is that we're not talking about sustainable costs. We should be charging what it takes to hire
Right,
someone.
right, and-
Point blank, hands down, that's it.
And
If
I
they don't
get that.
accept it, they don't accept it, then that's fine.
Exactly. Say
That's-
160 an hour. If they don't wanna pay 160 an hour, then there's no discussion.
And the same with Windsor, plus drive time, if that's.
Yeah, that's
if it's-
travel.
But then really, then they can say, no, I'm sorry, this is out of our league.
Well,
Right.
that's where the negotiation is. I take an offer back to them and they get a chance to say yes or no.
I'm just
Yeah.
saying, Marin
I wanted
TV
to
does
say-
it all
I
the
thought we were
time,
doing
and
it.
they've done it,
Well,
I
I
don't
needed more
understand why we
discussion,
can't do
Cindy.
it.
Okay, and that's
I needed
fine,
more discussion.
and that's totally fine, there's no reason not
We
to
should have brought
that
that up at the last meeting.
Which we brought up at the last meeting, that's what I don't understand.
All right, so what are we gonna do?
Take turns. I heard too much talking over each other, so I don't know if I heard it all.
We weren't talking over each other.
Oh, then it was just my imagination.
So what's the recommendation here?
I think that my thing is we need to assess what a cost is that makes it make sense. And this whole assumption that it's to fall onto Patty doesn't make sense to me. And I get that her job is to be, that's part of it, but it's not that she physically has to go to these things. Like,
Yes,
I
she
don't.
does.
But she does.
No, we would hire someone to do it because we'd be charging a cost that would, it would
Pay for
incur
itself.
to pay for itself. If not, then we don't take on the contracts. That's what I'm
Right.
saying, is the price should say, okay, so we need to charge them $300 an hour, whatever it takes to hire someone else. They don't wanna, they have it by the grand jury that they have to have it on video, like every other government and agency in the city or
And
in
they have
the
no
state.
options. They have no
They
other
have no
options.
options. So why aren't we charging what makes sense? Like, that's what I don't understand.
I agree with
It's-
what Domenica's saying.
I don't get it.
And I believe in the last discussion that we were trying to get one cost that works for us across
thought
the
so
board
too.
for all.
Right. One
even if-
cost plus travel.
plus travel, for everybody. Petaluma is a special deal.
Yeah, you wanna throw Petaluma out of that conversation.
But everyone else,
Make it profitable for us. If we're the only game in town doing it,
Do it.
do it.
How do we
Charge for it.
determine the cost
Talk
of
to-
doing it? So we can determine a salary, so we can determine hiring somebody.
We could work with Patty to find out how much time she's spending trying to get access assistance and coordinating. Here's her, I got her.
it would be a cost benefit analysis for the ED in my
Here's what we're
opinion.
doing.
I don't think it's a Patty situation, I think it's looking at the cost of hiring someone to do it and what's gonna make sense.
And you're saying, Tim, that Petaluma's out of that,
Yeah, when we're
Because-
talking about so this is where it's tough for me to know which hat I'm wearing. But as far as charging Petaluma, we have a contract with City of
Right.
Petaluma.
because it's Petaluma Community
Well, and-
Access.
And because it's
Which
an
valve?
exclusive contract and there's PEG fees in there, so.
Okay, I just wanted to hear you say that because that's gonna come into play in
Yeah.
another agenda item.
Well, it's a bigger, more complicated, and it's not quite as easy as saying we're the only game in town. Here, dear Windsor, dear Sebastopol, take it or leave it. I think those are market driven and business cost driven, so
Okay, I just wanted to.
that's different. The way that we try to price the city of Petaluma is a whole
No, I
different.
get it, I just
Yeah.
wanted it on the record,
Okay.
thank you.
It's on there.
That's, yeah.
Okay, so,
So what do we do?
I think that there's other models locally that do these
Okay.
things, so I think we can look at them.
okay, so here's my recommendation. We don't have to make a decision tonight, it's the end of the year, nobody's gonna be doing anything, Sebastopol's probably not waiting for an answer, if there's nobody else that they've called on. We can go into January.
Did Sebastopol ask us for any dates?
Pardon?
Did either Windsor or Sebastopol to say, we need to have your
No.
proposal by?
No.
Okay, thank you.
And then Tim, I want you to look at this list and tell me how many of these are mandatory for us to be filming.
Mandatory for filming?
Meetings, Petaluma meetings, how many of those are mandatory?
Want to start?
Oh, that's the person.
Because I would not understand why we are paying somebody for meetings that are not mandatory.
You talking about the Petaluma meetings?
Mhm.
Yes,
Because
the
the
list that you just came by.
PEG fees, right? Is that why?
But not
No,
everything's
they're-
mandatory.
Not everything's mandatory, city council is mandatory.
What's mandatory is what the city manager says is mandatory.
And what does the city manager say?
I'm marking those, just
Okay,
so when you see it's got a lot of them, you don't be surprised.
okay,
So the way that this has been determined is the city manager says, these bodies will be in the council chamber and they will be recorded.
okay,
Others will be audio or hand notes, so there's quite a few other bodies, there's a lot of committees.
but we aren't bound to audio and hand notes,
We PCA?
right,
No, those audio only and hand notes are not covered by PCA.
right,
So PCA only covers the ones that the city manager says, thou shalt do them on video
Right.
in the chambers.
and those are the ones that I would like for you to mark, please.
And that's what I'm doing.
Thank you. So, why don't we table this into, January board meeting after, let's see, we need to do a study on, yeah, a cost study on what's gonna happen to these other places. So what we need is somebody to sit down and do, well, I guess we can agree on the per hour cost. But the mileage, and then you have to figure out, you've gotta pay somebody what is it now, 65 cents a mile to,
55,
it's
55.
55?
but
Okay.
you can also charge for, so an hour of travel, you can charge a half hour of full rate.
Right, so that's what
Same
we
thing.
need to,
So responsible on a bad day.
okay,
I think the bigger question in there is, and I think it's really the basis of John's concern, is can we keep plugging in reliable people that show up? Access assistants, one of your big complaints is, oh crap, we gotta send Patty up there again. Isn't that if not the biggest, one of the
Yeah, and
biggest?
it's not even if somebody drops out, we have four
And-
separate meetings on Tuesday
And
night.
historically, it hasn't been if, it's been when.
We're not paying them enough.
Well, there's, yeah, maybe, but we know that access assistance, it's been a total revolving door since I've been involved with this. There's been a lot of stability in the last handful of years, but even with the additional stability that you've been a big part to, it's not quite a revolving door. It seems like almost every meeting, there's a different person in there.
Well, why don't we advertise and get a steady person in, knowing that we're gonna pay them a good rate of pay?
So I think part of the tricky part is PCA is contractually bound to an artificially low rate for the city meetings, which is by far and away the biggest number of hours.
But every
and I
other
understand that,
city-
because this is Petaluma Community Access, but Cotati is not Petaluma, Roar
I-
Park is not, all
I
these
agree.
others, and so that's
So-
where we become a
So in that case, then.
media company.
Either
Yeah.
we figure out how to pay access assistants a healthy chunk to keep them and keep them
Outside.
interested, or we give them a different rate to do the paying clients, if you will.
Okay, so what we need is the study then of what the exact cost would be to transport somebody from here to there and back for each of these cities, and upping our rates to 160,
At least, yeah.
Well, that's good.
and see what that would look like.
And that would probably cover a very healthy hourly rate for an access assistant.
I think so, and it's like Domenica said, all they have to do is say no.
So
They can go
then,
find somebody else,
the-
and they'll never find anybody else to get it for a better rate.
the other,
No.
issue in there is by the way that we have the organization structured, Patty has her hands full. You know,
Exactly.
managing all of the
Okay.
media and the access assistants, so we need to balance the
Okay,
workload a little bit.
so why don't we charge John with finding whoever in staff to do that study? Come back to the next meeting with those numbers. Patty will already be here for the marketing piece. And we'll invite her to also participate in the discussion with what it would look like for her to schedule these other cities. Suggestions, anyone?
You ready to put that into a motion?
Isn't it just
That's
direct?
going
I
to
could,
fall.
I'm trying to do a straw poll here to see
Who's
if
on
we have the
board?
support for it.
I support that decision.
Will that fall onto John or the new executive
Yes.
director?
John.
To find the staff.
We don't need to put a name to executive director, all we have to do is charge the executive
Wow.
director
Mhm.
with that
It's
task.
gonna be a team effort.
And the task is to find the numbers to.
Yeah. Do the study
To do the
at
study.
160
Find a
an
rate.
hour,
That would be
plus
charged.
travel.
Plus paying
Bring it
reliable
back here,
access
look at it,
assistants.
and ask Patty how that would look on her plate as the coordinator.
And would we consider Windsor in the equation?
Put them all in there, and then we decide,
Figure it out.
yeah.
See what
Put all the
makes
cards
sense.
on the table, and then we decide.
And maybe it has to be more than 160. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like,
Let's
this
start
is-
with 160.
Yeah, and if that's not enough, then we charge more.
I'll bring up one last caveat, that when we renegotiate with, what did you say, Road Park is this year?
We're gonna
January.
renegotiate middle of January,
And they're paying how much now?
60.
And then they're gonna jump to 160?
What choice do they have?
That's quite a,
We got the job because Santa Rosa jumped it to 90.
so.
And they,
What choice do they have though? So
But
then
there
we
is no
drop
more
them.
Santa Rosa, so who are they gonna get?
A private videographer for
So why
$300
don't we
an
go
hour?
up to 90
I mean,
with
what do you,
them?
what
Okay.
choice do they have? I mean,
They can say no.
yeah.
They
Worst
can say no.
is no.
These are real dicey because these are, as working assignments, gigs go, they're relatively short, they all involve travel, and they're all at night, and they're random different nights. So,
They can say no.
so finding a competitor for this is, I would guess, probably difficult.
And they're all required to do it, so.
Well, yeah, there's that little state law thing.
We can't do it at a lower rate to accommodate them. They have to,
I wasn't suggesting.
yeah. I know you weren't, but
Yeah, I was
that's,
just putting it all out there.
yeah.
You gotta pay. You gotta pay.
Okay, so I move that we charge the executive director with going back, doing the study at
Talk slower so
160.
she can write it down.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
I'm new to this.
So I'm watching her.
I
I don't even know what I
move
got here, so.
that we direct the ED
Yeah.
to come back with a completed study of costs for travel with rates based at $160 an hour.
And Patty's workload.
Well, that would be
Yeah,
based on the
That's-
rate,
That's
that would
part of
include
it.
that.
Yeah.
In the
That's
minutes.
Yeah, true.
Sorry,
And
say
that
that again,
Patty-
that last part?
Include the cost and, or work, and cost and workload of Patty. I'll amend your
Okay.
motion,
All right. So amended.
or you can do it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? I guess that means you're in favor, Judy?
Yes.
Okay, good, thank you.
She's had her pen.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, it's gonna be a mess. That's it right now.
No, I was looking at the last agenda to see what we discussed. Okay, so,
Jurisdiction radius.
oh God, we're on 10D, discussion of
Yes.
possible action on member jurisdiction radius.
We went around in circles and just kicked that one to this one, didn't we?
Well, and that's why I asked you to say why Petaluma rates are different from the other cities, because Petaluma, this is Petaluma's community access
Well,
station.
And it's locked in by contract, and there are DIFCA fees at stake,
Right.
or PEG fees at stake.
Maybe you should state the problem with the
So-
question.
Member jurisdiction radius being who we allow as members of Petaluma Community Access. And there has been a issue of other programmers being allowed to have shows that do not live in Petaluma. And historically, it was Petaluma community members that were allowed membership, and I believe that we should go back to that model. And I know Dennis at the last meeting, and maybe Dominica and others showed concern that we would be denying,
I'm impartial.
pardon me?
I'm impartial.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't, but what I'm saying is that we need to give ownership of Petaluma Community Access back to the Petaluma community in more ways than one, and in this way, I would like to see it belong to the members of Petaluma, and that if we have other programmers that wanna come in from Santa Rosa or wherever they're coming from now, that it be permitted, but that they are gonna be on a different pay scale as far as membership dues,
So I was gonna say.
just
same
like
one.
Yeah.
bowling alleys, just like golf clubs, just like A lot of places where you become members, if you're not a member, live in the community, you pay at a higher scale. Number two, I'm concerned that as we start filling all the slots in our programming, that we're going to come upon a waiting list. And I strongly feel that as a slot, Dennis vacates his slot, that first dibs on filling that slot should come from a Petaluma community member and not somebody from Sebastopol.
Mhm.
I feel very strongly about those two things. So that's why I wanted this on the agenda, because currently that is not how it's structured. It's a come one, come all from anywhere.
In the bylaws, I believe it
It's not a
says-
bylaws.
Yeah, it's not, that's a
Pardon me?
membership.
It qualifies in the membership that it's from the Petaluma and the vicinity. And
Yeah.
so I think that has been up
That
to
was-
That
John.
wasn't the bylaws, that's
That's in the
the
policy.
policies.
A policy.
That's a policy.
Right.
And what, basically, Cindy is asking to formalize a situation that nobody from outside of Petaluma can be a member without talking to the ED. It's an approval.
No, I don't think that,
I don't
I
think
I
so.
wanna
Wait a
give,
second.
I wanna give PCA back to the members,
I understand
not to the
I understand
ED.
that perfectly. All I'm saying is the situation it is now.
Right,
That's all I'm saying.
okay,
Currently, if anybody outside of Petaluma wants to get on, they have to meet with the ED and get approval.
Right.
That's all I'm saying. That's the way we're doing it now. Cindy is asking to formalize that at a higher level. Great, go for it.
right. I don't think it, okay. Dennis?
Dana had his hand up first.
Dana?
Most other radio stations, most other radio stations, you can become a member, not be part of the community as a non-resident member. And in that non-resident member, there is a pecking order that you would have to go through in order to be on that station. Because if you listen to any of the other community radio stations, many of the DJs that have been on for decades don't live at that station. They broadcast from their houses, but they are a prominent broadcast person on that station, which they do not even reside, sometimes not even in their county. So it's starting to sound, Cindy, like a not in my backyard kind of request, and I don't
No.
want us to
Not at all.
fall into that trap and preclude people, because we have Mickey Huff, and he's prominent on our station, and he's all over.
Yeah, but he lives in Petaluma.
I understand, but he wasn't prominent on our station. He was on KPFA, and they didn't say that he couldn't be on KPFA because he's a Petaluma resident. That's my point.
KPFA is different than KPCA.
I don't think so.
Community Access TV is,
It's a nonprofit. We're talking nonprofits in
No,
general.
we're talking
KPFA
community
is public
access TV.
TV, we're community access.
right,
It's just
it
community.
is
Kind
different.
of like a smaller collection.
Is that what we wanna be? Small?
That
and
is what
only in
we
our
are.
backyard?
That's what we are right now.
That's it.
Well, right now, and my view is that if we start locking out and locking ourselves down, we are nowhere near filling the slots that we have after 2 years. We're having trouble filling slots. So if we start restricting, well, people don't even know who we are in the first place. So if we start restricting now, I'm just, how do we go backwards from there if we can't fill the slots that we have?
Well, when I look at the program
What
board, it
slots
doesn't
do we
look
fill?
like we're not filling slots to me.
Me neither.
There's,
We have whole days of automated programming.
That's because
Right.
there's no staff in the
Yeah, because we
studio.
don't have any staff. If we had the staff, it wouldn't look like that.
if
Kind
you
of
listen
what
to
this is
any
about.
other station, they go 24/7 and they have programming.
That's different.
Why,
I think most of them are
then
open
what do
for
we
2
wanna
years.
be? Do we wanna be 24/7
No,
and
that's,
have programming
those are two
night?
different points, those two different points.
Yeah.
I mean, the reason we're not 24/7 right now is because we don't have the staff capacity. We don't have people pre-recording everything.
Okay,
Those
so
are two
then-
different conversations. Like, of course we wanna be 24/7, but that has nothing to do with people filling the slots.
There's not enough people in Petaluma that will fill the slots in order for us to broadcast.
Really, 60,000
And,
people.
What do you mean?
I'm not sure.
I'm I'm
Have there
impartial
been-
to this
I'm just-
conversation, I just wanna be clear about
Have there
that,
been
I'm
any,
just-
has there been anybody who's come to this station and asked for a show and been rejected?
No,
I
I'm
don't
not saying
know. I
that,
don't
what
think
I'm
there
saying
has
is,
been.
we haven't even, how many people don't know about us in Petaluma that might wanna do a show?
A lot.
A lot.
A lot.
Assumption.
No.
No.
That's
Not an
not-
I
assumption.
think that's an
How
assumption.
many
I
people do
agree
you
with
many
still
you.
people
walk
I
up to
know
and
that
say
have no clue.
KPCA and they go,
So,
what? Petaluma has a
I
radio
have people
station?
that ask me about radio shows all the time that aren't on there yet.
We're not even 24/7, and we're looking at stopping people from
No,
Katati
I'm
or.
not. No, you did not hear what I said. That is not what I said. That is not what I said.
Okay, what is it that we're talking about here?
We're talking about giving
Options.
Petaluma their community access radio station. Yes, we can share, but the membership level is gonna be different for resident and non-resident.
Yeah, I think what I heard you say is the golf course or the bowling alley thing. Where
Yeah,
you said non-resident is a lower priority to get programs on, or maybe waiting list, and also
Right.
possibly a higher cost.
Or maybe
Right.
they have to
That's-
pre-record, they can't
that's
be
not-
live, or
It's just a
maybe-
bylaw thing that you're talking
It's
about.
not
We're
a
not
bylaw.
talking
no, it's
about.
not a bylaw.
It's not even in the bylaws.
No, it's not in the
It's a
bylaws.
policy.
Okay, a policy.
It makes it easier to change.
So we're looking at making a policy
Mhm.
before we need to, because you're worried about
And that's usually the best time to make them.
non-residents of Petaluma.
It's not before we need to, it's on the agenda for a reason, we're talking about it right now.
That's right.
Well, you guys are vehement about this. I
You
don't
keep
see
looking
the
at
I'm
me.
problem.
not,
I'm like, I don't see the problem. I want people, I
There
would like
is no
somebody from
problem.
Santa
There's no-
Rosa
There's
to
no
be.
problem yet, but there will be.
no one's
Oh,
saying
okay,
there's,
will
okay,
be.
let me just say
Okay.
this.
There
I'm
will-
impartial
there
to
will.
the situation, I think that non-residents should pay more. There's no problem now, but why do we wait until there's a problem?
Right.
We're trying to develop
Right.
some sort of policy or some sort of direction before there's a problem. I don't.
Okay, and I wanna say something else about this. This is gonna tie into 11B on the revised membership structure, and that, you know, I think we need to revise the whole thing, and this would be part of it, that we would have resident and non-resident, and that we would also have Friends of KPCA, where you're not a programmer.
Combined.
Anybody can give money. I had somebody approach me at a meeting 2 weeks ago that said, oh my God, I love listening on Friday mornings because I get my political fix and everything. What can I do? How can I help? I want to give you guys some money, but I don't want to be a member. I don't want to pay that $100 membership fee.
That should be part of, that should be discussed in the outreach and fund development.
Yeah, cause there's a
That-
lot of people like that.
We should have a Patreon.
No, we're gonna
That-
discuss it here tonight, that we're gonna restructure to have Friends of KPCA. Because I'm tired of talking about it. We've been talking about this for a year and a half, and I wanna see it,
And I already promoted,
Pound your fist.
I already promoted
I wanna
it.
see it happen. Where's my gavel?
So
Where's my
everything out
gavel?
of the way though, let's
I don't-
clarify what we're talking about with.
Right.
with,
Dennis was next.
May I speak?
Yes.
I don't think that there's necessarily anything wrong with having a tiered membership in the sense of price. That's a because people who don't live in Petaluma don't pay our PEG fees, yes, they could pay extra money. But once you're a member, you're a member. That's my opinion. I don't think there should be any pecking order, oh, well, you want a show, but you're not a resident. If you're a paying dues member, you're a paying dues member. Whether or not that money is slightly more because you're outside of town.
I think there should be a lottery for non-residents.
I-
I'm sorry, like, that's an idea, it's just an
Dennis's
idea.
turn.
Let me-
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you
You're
were done.
impartial, so
I just
I'm
think, I think
that's
Just
not
thinking
an
it's
of ideas.
community access.
answer.
It's
Petaluma Community Access.
Yes, but now with our reach, we reach Novato, we reach
No,
Katati, we
we
reach.
don't.
I think if somebody has somebody has the drive to come and have a radio show, okay, if you want to make it so that a person who doesn't live within the exact city of Petaluma, they have to pay a little bit more, that's fine, but anybody should be able to have a show. I've said that from the very beginning, that this is public access, we shouldn't be,
It's not public access, it's community access. It's different.
what's, the-
It's by definition different. Okay, so
Go look it up online.
my only partial side of this is that I think it does have to be Sonoma County, period.
Or even Northern Marin.
That's my only partial side of this, is that I don't think we should allow Marin, cause that's just my personal That's my only partial side of it, the rest of it,
That's
whatever.
your only non-impartial part?
That's my only non-impartial part, if that's even proper grammar.
I understand, Cindy,
Okay.
oh, sorry, Richard, your hand was up.
I agree with Dennis on this. There, a tiered membership is certainly reasonable, but once you're a member, I think that you should have all the dues and rights, whatever, in the organization.
Okay, so keeping in mind, this is not public access, this is community access, okay, which is different. So if you live in Santa Rosa and I live in Petaluma and the 10 to 12 slot comes open on Friday and we both want it, who do you think should have that slot? A
I think it
Petaluma,
should be- it
a
might depend
Petaluma
on the actual
resident
show.
or a Santa Rosa resident?
It might depend on the show.
I think the
I don't-
director, executive
don't
director can
necessarily-
make that decision in
No, the
in
program
consort
director
with,
should make that
with
decision.
I don't
the
wanna
radio
make
station manager.
I think the program manager should make that
It's a lot
decision.
of pressure.
Public access television is often grouped with public educational government access television under the acronym PEG. Our PEG fees pay for public.
That's TV,
Yeah,
yes.
the television, I mean, that's what
Right.
this whole thing has been built under, is public access. Just because we call ourselves Petaluma Community Access, it's still part of the public access, structure, right?
I think we're
Should-
splitting hairs right now.
Well, I agree, but I don't think there's a, I just think that I think that it's okay to have a tiered membership for non-residents, but that once you're a member, anybody, you should have the same rights as any other member.
I recommend we punt this to the Policies and Procedures Committee.
I was gonna suggest we punt it, and I was gonna suggest another one, but that's just as good as anything.
And then
What were
we'll
you
bring,
gonna
How about we we send a list of bullet items, to discuss the radius, priority, and fees, and then also levels of services. But we say, dear committee, give us a recommendation that includes, addressing all these things, so we,
and then they'll come back with a recommendation,
Uh-huh.
correct?
Mm-hmm.
so
Okay.
so let's make your motion in the form of something that includes bullet items. I'll
Who's
prompt-
I could make that motion if
I'll
I
sec-
knew who's gonna
I'll second it.
compile the bullet items.
I'll help you with it as we go, we'll have to think of them, but I think it's good to have it in the minutes, and it's also good for everybody to know what we did tell the committee.
So isn't it, I make a motion to address the member jurisdiction radius, the fee structure, a potential fee structure,
Priorities.
and a programming priority recommendation.
Okay,
Is that everything?
that's what Cindy just said.
Okay, well, I was just reading it. You said to reiterate for the minutes.
So did you get that, Judy?
Motion to address, members' jurisdiction radius, fee structure, and programming priority, that's.
So,
priority.
I'll second it, and you wanna ask if anybody wants to amend it, did we miss a bullet
Is
item?
there any further discussion?
Okay,
Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I
Abstentions?
abstain.
Okay,
Who did?
after that piercing look you gave me, you're gonna abstain.
Who gets
Yeah.
what?
I would've thought that you had more
I
passion.
thought they were giving it to
Okay.
the
Policies
policy
and
and procedure.
I
Committee.
need to think about this some more, because
That's-
we're trying to
that's in the
reinvent
agencies,
which has
isn't it?
already been done.
No, it hasn't.
no,
That's-
Are you kidding me? Have you looked at any of the other, have you ever belonged to another radio station? I belong to KALX.
What does that have to do with
in
our radio
Berkeley.
station?
It has everything to do with our radio station.
There's
And
no
we're not
policy.
gonna be any different
Anyway, the item's
than
over, so
anybody
let's
else.
move on,
Got
because
it.
we have a long more
Okay.
agenda
I
and
abstain.
it's already
All right.
set for you.
all right, nope, we're done, all right.
I'm just sorry, I'm
So,
sorry, okay, I'm sorry.
Item 10E, discussion
job, I just don't
on
want it.
extended access policy, and I know last month we talked about removing this from the agenda,
It's supposed to be removed.
but
It was removed from mine.
Didn't we cover this during the director's report?
Yeah, we
Yes.
did.
In
could, are
excruciating
we,
The
detail?
three lock.
Yes.
can I lead the meeting? Okay. I met with Dana. I met with Dana because we have something in a personnel issue that included an issue about extended access. And in our discussion, Dana and I were talking that I said that I think that we should have an assessment. Anyone who wants to have an evening show where there's no staff available and that they will be using the card access needs to have an assessment to demonstrate that they have the ability to operate everything in the studio without staff assistance. So,
Yeah, an equipment assessment quiz,
pardon me?
kinda like an equipment assessment?
Yes, I'm not in favor of the station manager deciding who will and who will not. I think that an assessment should decide on who can have access to the studio or not, because this is a community access radio station and it belongs to the community, and the members, I think, have the right to come in there at nighttime if they have the ability to do it. So, that said,
Isn't it within the station manager's prerogative to decide where people's shows are? The final say is his.
Scheduling?
He's in charge of scheduling. That's how it is in the members' agreement.
I think the members should have a say in the scheduling also. So that's why I think we should be having members' meetings so that that can be determined.
Fair enough, but that's not what we're doing now.
That doesn't mean we can't
You're
change that.
talking about what we want to do, not what we are
Yes.
doing, yeah.
Yes.
Is this something for the agenda that needs to be talked about again next week? I mean, it was something I took off the agenda, and yet we were sort of reconfiguring the discussion around another
Yeah, this is,
situation.
Yeah, well, Dana, do you have anything, since this is your item on the extended access policy, what,
if you wanted to give it to you.
No, it's really for all of us, because we really want to have the right people coming in the door at night. And we don't wanna throw it immediately onto Rob to make that decision. There should be a list of rules and regulations that people know where the fire extinguisher is, if there's a problem. So, I mean, I know I'm making it simple, but it's not that
It's
simple.
not simple, no.
No,
That,
but that's a
that
good
not
one.
everybody's given access to every radio station in the county, and
Yeah.
I believe that we took this discussion seriously, that not only who do we wanna grant access, but do they have the ability to go in there and perform and represent us late at night? There's been many stations where people have taken over.
Is this another one we're gonna recommend kicking to the policy committee?
It is a policy.
It is a policy, it's gonna take a policy. Rob has never asked or asserted the right to decide who comes in at night. We've always talked about, we need a criteria policy to formalize who gets in.
well, there
We need
has
to
been
protect-
some situations where somebody's wanted to come in and do something and there hasn't been staff. I'll use an example, Christmas show last week, after Ed's show, there was no staff there, so,
Well, it was scheduled for
decided
this-
that?
Scheduled for this week,
oh, is it this week?
yeah.
Oh,
Coming up.
okay, yeah,
We found the time that worked, and,
right, but would you let anybody do that?
no,
And see, that's what I'm saying, is that we need,
I agree, it needs a
Yeah.
policy, and that
yes,
policy is something we need to develop, or.
So I'll make the motion that we kick this to the policy procedure committee, that come back with a recommendation on a policy for extended access, or out, when staff are not present.
I second it.
Based on criteria.
Non-staff hours using the card holder.
Uh-huh,
Can you, in English, please? Sorry,
I thought I did.
I'm sorry, I've got a daughter who's needs to be picked up and she's calling me, sorry.
Here, let me talk.
No,
Uber.
she's 17 years old now. So extended policy access, so Tim, you're making a motion to kick it over to the policy,
You could say
Committee.
assign an action to the policy and procedure committee to make a recommendation for criteria to allow members or card holders access when there's no staff present.
Thank you, Cindy, for bringing that up.
She rescued it.
Okay, are we done with that?
No,
Oh, no, we have a
there's
motion
no
on the
second.
floor.
Second. I second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mhm.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. 11A, discussion and possible action on potential new appointments of outreach and events committees. So,
Should we punt that to next month? So we're gonna do the actual appointments?
Yeah.
okay, we can move that to next month.
No, I think you should at least clarify the names.
That's not
Once
what it
and for all.
says though.
Okay, so at the, as mentioned earlier, at the meeting last Tuesday of what used to be the outreach committee, we decided to, like we talked about earlier, you heard outreach and fund development is gonna be one entity, which will have staff involvement with agendas and minutes and reporting out to this body, where the events committee will be that of, the events, like we said,
Special events and stuff.
special events, KPCA presents, that kind of stuff.
Did she get it all written down?
No, I didn't get shit written down, sorry, man, I'm, sorry. I didn't get anything written down on that.
On which?
I'm a lousy
Edit
secretary.
that.
Oh, we'll have to edit that, yeah, okay,
On
so
which one?
11A, that's what we're discussing?
Right. 11A.
Yeah,
Hey, watch it, buddy.
you haven't lost anything,
Go
'cause
ahead and
it's
hit
really,
Dana, I don't
we
care.
haven't
We haven't
really
said
done
anything
anything.
yet.
Oh.
Yeah, we haven't done anything, we're
Are
just
you
talking
busting my
about,
chops here? What am I supposed to write
no,
down?
we're just,
Thank you.
we're talking about at the beginning of the meeting.
No, I just realized I need to not listen to him, except
Tell
for
her
when
to
he's
hit
actually
me
saying
with her
something
bony
important.
Right,
Right.
you get it now?
Got
He
it.
says some
Yeah.
useful things.
We don't
I
listen
haven't
to
heard
him.
them yet.
Just very few.
We don't
far
ever listen
between.
to him.
What we've done is defined what the two committees are.
Thank you.
Formerly will be called Outreach and Fund, and the Events Committee is just that, and it encompasses pop-ups.
So I guess what we need is consensus here that that's what we wanna do, so we need a motion, I guess, from somebody.
Dana started saying what the events committee might
Yes.
entail, and
Oh.
he included something I might not have guessed.
What?
You said pop-ups.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Pop-ups.
that's events.
Those don't count as events?
They could, they are.
That's what,
They
we
do.
were putting the pop-ups in any of the.
So when we say events, I think more of things like DEP, that's all.
That too.
It doesn't exist anymore.
Well, that's
You think,
more of what my idea of event is.
you think the
That'd be
events,
pretty narrow.
you think the events committee should be the ones reviewing the applications for a pop-up event?
Yes,
I think so, yeah.
or is that more,
Well, it sounds like it's a function committee, and it should do that and report at the
If
same.
you've got staff on it, if you've got appropriate staff on the events committee. Cause that's a staffing, there's staffing issues around pop-ups.
Well, the thing though with the application is that all of that's supposed to be included in the application. Is like the impact, the programmer, the thing, all that's included in the application, so if the events committee, sorry. If the events committee gets an incomplete application without all this information filled, then they can't approve it. So it doesn't necessarily mean a staff person has to be present, but they are part of the application process.
There's
Right.
access to the station that has to do with
But that's what I'm saying,
pop-ups.
it's included in the application, is have you gotten prior approval for X, Y, and Z? Who, are you interfering with the show? Do you have permission? Do you have, so,
And as I understand it, that people fill out those forms, they submit them to Nellie, she reviews them, a corrected form is brought to the events committee, and we determine if that fits within our purview of how we want our station to present itself.
Well, then somebody from staff should be on that committee talking about representation of PCA. John,
I've
you
always-
call.
I've always been to those meetings, so I've always been there, whether that's an obligation for the new ED, that's another question, but I've
So-
always been a participant.
So that's what we need to define, is the ED a standing member of the events committee? I think somebody from staff should be.
Okay.
How about ED or his designate?
Yeah, Rob would like to,
Still
but he's
correct.
quite often busy.
And it's possible a designated might be a better alternative on some events.
Well, then maybe the
Meetings.
events committee should schedule their meetings around Rob's schedule and that Rob be mandatory. at
There's also the
those.
possibility that Nellie functions as the
She's
liaison
always
staff, and that the events committee doesn't have full approval, but they process the incoming requests, bring it to the board where it's approved.
There you go.
There's a process that
Okay.
works.
Fine with me,
Yeah, the, I think more practical right now is when is those meetings gonna be? Because the event meeting does need to happen in January, and we bumped it off the second Tuesday.
Am I clear that the, like, pop-up events after everything is, gone through the, culling process with Nellie and gone through the event committee, then comes to the board for a decision as to whether it's
The pop-up, I don't think the board.
That's what we
board
just
doesn't-
said, that's what I
no.
just heard.
those
but
events?
I don't think
That's
it
an-
needs
I
to
don't
be
think it
on the
needs to,
board.
but that's what we just
Well,
said.
that's what we did in the
Oh.
past, but we're talking about streamlining it, so
Restructuring.
the event
Right.
committee has the power to approve it. That's on the table.
It stops there.
It's being discussed
Right.
as, should it stop there? And if you agree, then
I
it
think
does.
it should stop there.
Okay, we got 10 minutes left to finish this whole agenda. So what are we doing?
I thought we were
Are we,
Your form-
approving the name, is
Yeah.
that what
Right.
we're doing?
That's-
the
Okay.
name and the function?
So I make a motion to approve the designation of the outreach and fund development committee as one, and the events committee as other, and the events committee approves and manages events, we didn't really talk about the other, and the outreach and fund development committee does all
Can
the
I-
other pre.
Can I help you? Can I
Yes,
help you
please
with
help
that?
me.
That both of those committees come back at the next meeting with an outline of what their mission is.
Got it, good, perfect.
And work
Okay.
plan.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll second that.
Any more discussion?
Who seconded?
Jason.
Jason.
All over.
All those in
Next
favor?
one.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, aye, okay. All right, so,
That was only 11.
That was painful.
yeah.
If this, I was gonna-
11B, we're punting to the next meeting.
it's gonna happen, or at least punt it, I would say punt it to your, policies and
Yep,
procedures.
it'll land in the policies and procedures. 11C, discussion and action on the financial review for 17-18, John.
Yeah, it requires 2 signatures. They've got my name down, so I can sign it tomorrow, and it's done. It's good. They had no findings. You know, when I first started here, we used to have findings. So you're keeping the files in the wrong place, or you didn't do this. There's a couple of journal entries that got rearranged at the bookkeepers, and it's a formality right now. So if you approve it, I'll sign it.
Awesome.
You sign it and who, and,
Well, I can change it to have the board treasurer sign it, which is fine with me, but in the past, Corporation I've signed it and they put my name down, so.
I move to approve that.
I second.
okay.
Yeah, I read it, so.
Yeah.
I was there.
Are we all in favor?
Yeah.
Aye,
Aye.
okay. All right, that's done. We can adjourn to closed session then.
Camera.
Yes.
Thank you for being here.
He's forgetting
Public?
already.
Do we have a motion to adjourn to closed
I
session?
make a motion to adjourn the
Second.
section.
Anyone opposed? Okay, we're closed.